That's fascinating.
Man, this
It is very
the
fascinating.
underlying thing that's like taking over the way that people feel about politics.
So, grievance addiction. How feeling wronged messes with your brain.
What's your grievance?
This is my grievance right here. This is
This looks fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Dude, that hurts so bad. Oh, my God, dude. That guy's
the funny part is you couldn't break it.
Oh, my God.
Wow, we just watched a guy full on punch
Dude.
a car.
I do love.
And now he has to
Door,
go, and like he's
window.
almost certainly American, and he's
friends
very
with
upset,
you.
and he just cost himself an insurance claim
So,
on his hand.
so this writer, James Kimmel, I'll just quote right from the article. He says, "I'm a violence researcher and study the role of grievances and retaliation in violent crime. Recently, I've been researching the way grievances affect the brain, and it turns out that your brain on grievances looks a lot like your brain on drugs, basically scrambled eggs.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
In fact, brain imaging studies show that harboring a grievance, a perceived wrong or injustice, real or even imagined, activates the same neural reward circuitry as narcotics.
Wow.
This isn't a metaphor, it's brain biology. Scientists have found that in substance addiction, environmental cues such as being in a place where drugs are taken or meeting another person who takes drugs cause sharp surges of dopamine in crucial reward and habit regions of the brain, specifically the nucleus accumbens and dorsal striatum. This triggers cravings in anticipation of experiencing pleasure and relief through intoxication. Recent studies show that similarly, cues such as experiencing or being reminded of a perceived wrong or injustice, a grievance, activates the same reward and habit region of the brain, triggering cravings in anticipation of experiencing pleasure and relief through retaliation. To be clear, the retaliation doesn't need to be physically violent. An unkind word or tweet can be very gratifying.
Wow.
Oh, tweets. So there's
Right?
lots of those flying around.
There's a lot of that.
That is true.
Yeah.
For a period of time, I was only complaining on Twitter to like customer support people. You guys, I have
I know that you have a
I think
special place for
you.
customer
that's my
support.
other, and it's not
Yeah.
the person, and I'm never mad at the person.
It's the system.
It's the system.
Smug,
Yeah.
sanctimonious bitch.
It's the
you
institution.
talking to any customer service agent.
Brian cost us our business having a credit card for 2 years
Yeah,
because
well,
he freaked out.
He lost
didn't-
his fucking mind.
I didn't lose my mind.
Oh.
I was just upset at
Brian,
the
you know what?
injustice.
Actually,
You know what?
blessing in disguise, you made us run our business with the cash that we have.
That's it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
could
exactly.
not borrow
Silver
a
lining.
dime,
You know
even
what?
at a 20%
You know
interest
what's
rate.
interesting, guys? This is serious too. I had therapy last week, and I was talking about empathy, and I'll save you the whole story of like going into the whole
Please.
part of therapy
Please,
where
please.
we discovered
Yes.
this. But
I'm begging you, please.
but I was
Hold on.
meeting.
Were your parents divorced? Did your parents get divorced
Yeah.
at some point?
There's I don't know a lot about this, but like my understanding of this thing that we were doing in therapy, it's called parts work, where you're like identifying the different sort of
Our
parts that make up you.
Dude, we just dived deep into this on Turn Me On.
Sweet.
This coming week's episode of Turn Me On
I think if
is-
that happens
is-
with
I
your
would love to
therapist,
listen to
I think if that happens with your therapist, you're supposed to tell a grown up.
is deeply we deeply dived into that. It's very fascinating. You're all the parts that you're made of.
Totally. Yes.
yeah.
It's very much like Inside Out.
Yes, dude. Yeah.
Which is so adorable
It's,
to think
it's a
of
really
yourself
cool.
like that.
It's the first. It reminded me a lot of Gabor Mate in our conversations with him.
Totally.
Like
And
the way that he stated like the thing that you see about yourself that you don't like about yourself is like your stupid friend that
Yes,
showed up
yeah.
for you back in the day when you needed them to protect you that way, but they just didn't have all the faculties and they didn't know. So it's like not judging that friend that shows up and saying, I don't like them.
Mhm.
It's just recognizing, hey, they didn't really do the best.
But one thing that I thought of is
Mm.
you have stupid friends, but you also have good friends.
Yeah.
You know, that make up part of who you are.
Yeah, well, back to this grievance thing and the brain chemistry. One of the things that makes it really interesting is that because this feeling of being wrong can trigger that dopamine release, it makes a lot of people seek that feeling out again and again and again, which is like ties back to like holding on to like a grudge and like like
kind of like when you're
thinking about it.
in junior high and like you're kind of feeling sad because the girl doesn't like you or whatever, but like for some reason you're kind of like addicted to the
Yes.
to like the
Right.
but like, oh, this hurts.
Yeah.
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 So you just
listen-
listen
so
to
you
start
sad
listening
songs.
to brand new.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
listen to screamo and like you're just like you kind of love it, but it's so
Yeah.
painful.
Well, here's another little interesting quote from the article. Grievance, like a narcotic, demands even larger doses to deliver its high. So you're kind of like always going for, like, when you think about like, oh, I fucking should have said this in the argument or whatever, and you're like in the shower just like running it through your head. It's like, well, you gotta like play it out even more to get that fucking release. And it's like,
Oh, that's
Man,
fascinating.
this
It is
this
very
is
fascinating.
the like underlying thing that's like taking over the way that
Well,
people feel about politics.
so this mechanism
Wow.
helps explain why grievance can be so powerful on a large scale, influencing group behavior and even political movements.
definitely.
This
People
feels
bond over shared grievances, which can create strong in-group identities, which just increases the otherness and that sort of like tribal mentality of like the other is the enemy, and let's fucking
Crazy.
freak out about
It's so
this.
crazy that people who believe in like one political or like support one political party can't acknowledge something good the other side
Mhm.
did. Like there has to be, I mean, even if you disagree entirely, like if I disagree entirely with Donald Trump, there's got to be something, like one thing that I look at and go, "Oh, well, that was a good thing though."
of course. Well, there is.
Whoa, dude, whoa.
You just have to go. You
Whoa.
just
But
have,
that's the
you
thing
just have
is
to
that,
go
like-
through the policy and like.
Right?
But people don't. People generally, I mean, people generally are not. They're not thinking about the idea. They're thinking about the person. They're thinking about the
Ooh.
person that said it. So like, it really doesn't matter what the idea is that comes out of a person's mouth. It's that it came from that person's mouth.
Ooh.
You know, so you could say the most factual thing on planet Earth, but if I hate you, and you say the factual thing, there's like a mechanism that's just like it can't be true, or there's got to be some sort of angle here that is, trying to screw me over or screw somebody over that I support or love or whatever. And it's like just because the person said it, or the person who represents the thing, like a political party or whatever. So like, yeah. I feel very disconnected from the world in general, and this is actually a really interesting insight for me in terms of like why I feel disconnected. Helicopter going by. Why I feel disconnected, why I might feel disconnected, because like I had lots of grievances and grudges when I was like a teenager and when I was kind of an aggressive, athlete in my youth. But like after yoga, like getting into yoga as like 20, 21-year-old, like I can't even really think about holding grudges or grievances in the last like 10 years. So like maybe this is why I feel so disconnected from the world, because the world is like one big grievance machine at the moment, from like a political social.
Yeah, well, I mean, the big sort of like reason why I wanted to kind of dive into this, and especially after our conversation with Jessalyn, was basically just to land on the conclusion that, next time you find yourself stuck in like a loop of frustration or anger or resentment, maybe it might be warranted depending on the situation, but also it's a good opportunity to just stop and check in and kind of assess, is this just a fucking dopamine? Is this just like yeah, it feels good, and I'm gonna keep doing it? Because if it is, might be worth just like taking a step back and just reassessing whether or not this is really valuable for you. If this is really going to like improve your day.
Almost never.
Almost never. Yeah.